Day 273 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Joszy here, and today is another quick update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine today. And as always, I'll start off with those Russian military losses, so as of the 23rd of November. So we are currently sitting on an additional 410 Russian military personnel losses there, currently sitting at 85,410. Then when we take a bit of a quick peek at the hardware losses, so armored combat vehicles an additional 5, tanks 2, and artillery 5 as well. So we'll jump back to the map and we'll start out in Moscow again today, where another day, another fire in Moscow. A place that is so far away from the front lines, or at least the traditional battlefield front lines, that is. So in this case, the fire broke out at a hostel in the Russian capital. And it's not clear yet what caused this. And with several other recent fires in the region, just with all of this increased regularity, it is certainly indeed quite that bit suspicious. Then we'll move across to also in the Russian Federation, so the Oblast of Belgorod, where there is a town here just north of Kharkiv called Ustinka, starting with an Ustinka. Not a great name for a town in Russia. So Ustinka, where there were some explosions reported. I lost the photo for this one, but yeah, it's just over the border somewhere there. I suspect that there has been some Ukrainian counter battery fire into this location, firing at Russian forces positions there. Oh, there you are. I found you, little stinker. Okay, now moving back to the main map here. So we are talking about Ukraine now, where Russian strikes continue targeting the Ukrainian power grid quite intensively today all over the country. Now, Ukrainian air defenses were really fired up and running today. It shot down 51 out of the 70 caliber cruise missiles launched by Russia, and it also took down 5 Russian Lancet drones. Those ones were neutralized as well. However, the remainder of the successful strikes took out power in the region in some real major hub cities, including Kyiv, Lviv, Mykolaiv, Zhytomyr, and Vinnytsia as well. So 70 cruise missiles is quite a large strike. On the October 10th, Russia fired 80 missiles. Then on November 17th, just this day last week, in fact, Russia fired nearly 100 missiles. So what Russia is finding it has to do is send a high volume of missiles at any given single time to attempt to overwhelm the Ukrainian air defenses. And Ukraine's air defenses are certainly getting better by the week, but they are still waiting on more air defenses internationally. Meanwhile, a very big report came out very recently showing a very deep analysis into Russia's depleted missile stock levels. Now, I'll get into this in a much later video, but suffice it to say, Russia reportedly only have about 600 of these missile types left, normally used for these types of strikes on the power infrastructure, meaning that they are burning through them at a rapid pace. Which in turn means they may only have about 5 or 6 more heavy strike capabilities into the Ukrainian power grid systems. But further to that, the report also said Russia would need to increase their barrage of missile strikes to above 100 missiles to sufficiently overwhelm the Ukrainian air defenses. But like I said, more on that later. Then we'll move across to the Donbass region. So we are talking northern Luhansk, the Oblast there, where we're not getting a lot of exact precise details yet, but we've got some footage here of really a position of occupiers destroyed. So in this video, you can see 2 big self-propelled guns taken out, and there's a completely destroyed Russian KAMAZ truck in the distance there as well. Then we move down a bit further on the map, and Russian forces have attempted another assault on the Bilorivka region, but also Yakovlivka as well. Now, these offensives from the Russian side were repelled. This is what I find interesting. So have a look at Yakovlivka here. We might even put on the topography. No, we'll put on the satellite. So the red indicates where the Russian forces are. The grey, which is harder to see on the satellite, of course, just indicates unconfirmed territory. And the rest to the northwest is Ukrainian controlled. But this town here, really on the front line there, it's sort of like a cul-de-sac, or you've got some natural river-like obstacles there, sort of cornering it in a way, which makes me think Russia will take this town sooner or later, which of course they obviously think that as well, because for the last 5 months, Russian forces have been stationed pretty much right here with countless failed offensives, and I really kid you not. So you might see a town just a little bit further away, so about 5 kilometers or about 3 miles, so the town of Volodymyrivka. Now this town settlement was taken on the very end of June, let's say the 1st of July it was taken there. So look at the push forward from the Russian forces stationed at the front line here in July, August, September, October, nearly end of November. So yeah, nearly 5 months. We are talking, yeah, like I said, 3 miles, 5 kilometers, not that far. And locations just like this is probably what helped Russia to first realize that the first 200,000 soldiers that they deployed for their quote-unquote special operation from the beginning of the year wasn't anywhere near enough to get the job done, causing them to start up that partial military mobilization that's really barely taken an effect. It actually was called up on the 21st of September this year, so, well, yeah, over 2 months ago now. Then we'll move across to the Bakhmut region, so a location where Russia did take some land in the last day. So I'm going to zoom out there, and it's actually, well, it's more south of Bakhmut, so we'll need to zoom in. We'll use the date map just to give you guys a bit of an idea. So we'll move back and forth, and that's the difference there. So they didn't take any settlements per se, just land between the settlements or the towns. And they took about, let's see, very approximately, I'm just curious about the square miles. It was about there, so that's about 7 k's and went about 1 kilometer. So we are talking, yeah, about 6 square miles, maybe even a little bit less than that, depending. So not a great deal. It's certainly not to the level of Kherson from just 10, 12, 14, about 2 weeks ago now. Of course, when Ukraine liberated the north bank of Kherson. But even with taking this land here from the Russian forces, it got me very curious about those weather conditions here. And so I looked those ones up, and just as I guessed, yep, sunny and dry today, at least in contrast to much of the upcoming 7-day weather forecast outlook for the region, which means Russia is certainly taking any final opportunities to take as much front line as they can before winter truly sets in here. And sadly to do it all with as much cannon fodder as they can as well. Then we'll move across on the map to we have the Zaporizhia Oblast. So in this one, there's just been a really recent report saying that Ukrainian forces hit and destroyed a Russian base in Tokmak. So Tokmak, no stranger to, for instance, some HIMARS attacks. You could technically do a HIMARS strike from probably quite some distance. Ooh, even further than that. Let's zoom out and go an extra, theoretically, 88 kilometers or about 5 miles or so. So yeah, there's plenty of locations for a HIMARS strike to take place on that location there. In fact, these days it doesn't even have to be a HIMARS. There is a lot of high precision strike capabilities that Ukraine has now, from the UK, other things like the Excalibur shells from the States. Even Turkey has supplied them with, I think it's about 45 miles range, which is well within this range to take something from Tokmak out. Then we will briefly move across to the Kherson region, where currently artillery duels are taking place over Kherson city, with Ukrainian artillery targeting Russian positions just opposite. Continues to be around this region here, so the Olenchky region there of the occupied Russian forces. But also, in some instances, even a little bit closer. We're talking about a mile and a half or about 3 kilometers approximately from the Kherson side, which could be as little as, in fact, closer than there. So we are told they are actually, the Ukrainian forces are striking really close to the front of the river, where this is obviously where some of those previous trenches were built by the Russian forces that we saw on the satellite imagery. So yeah, looking to take those ones out, you can see the Ukrainian forces doing there. And then moving across to, so the Ukrainian forces continue to conduct operations on the Kinburn Spit. So this is really the peninsula right here. It looks like it's part of Kherson, but technically with where the lines are drawn, it's in fact part of Mykolaiv. But as you might expect, the extent to which these offensives are known is still, it's ongoing. We just don't know enough about this because it's likely to be Ukrainian special forces paving the way into the south bank of Kherson. Then we'll move across to Crimea. A bit of action here as well. Again, so we're talking about Yevpatoria, Sevastopol, and Balaclava. So these are 3 areas along the west coast of the Crimean Peninsula that have had explosions reported there. So the occupation authorities in Sevastopol reported they shot down about 5 Ukrainian drones. It's not known for sure, at least we don't know yet, if any of them hit their targets. Of course, the occupation authorities, they seem to indicate they shot everything down. This could be a decoy from the Ukrainian side in many ways. A, testing the air defenses of the Russian forces here. B, making sure that Russian forces keep their air defenses here, so they're not moved back to, for instance, the Crimean or the Kerch Bridge and other central locations with airfields as well. So there's many reasons why this could be. Then we'll move across to some news for the day. So Ukraine has received the first Sikorsky S-61 Sea King helicopter from the UK. A total of 3 such helicopters will be sent to Ukraine. Now the good news is Ukrainian crews have already been trained to work with these, and these choppers mostly carry out search and rescue operations. Then in some other news, Ukraine is creating more quote-unquote invincibility centers for its civilians in its cities, in case Russia attacks or knocks out the power grids. So these centers include all of the basic essentials, including mobile phone connections, just general electricity, heat, water, basic first aid, all free of charge 24 hours a day. In fact, there are 4,000 such centers that already exist in the country, cities within the country, with many, many more planned to come as well. Then we'll move across today to a mobilization blunder. So Russian mobilized conscripts. Now in this video we've got these conscripts from a far eastern Russian district recently mobilized, and they are making a plea to their government. That's right, another plea. This time it's basically about getting, well, they say that they're getting shortchanged, so not getting the pay that they were promised. It was only one payment instead of ongoing, things like that. Also, they say they're not fully equipped as they thought they would be or would like to be, and they're saying many can't afford their own equipment. That's right, their own military gear to fight in a war that they're basically forced to do. I'm really just looking forward to the day that the Russian mobilized get past this video appeal stage and realize it's not working. I know you guys in the comments will say, well, Jozzy, that's probably not going to happen because these guys go into the front line and get exterminated, and then the process repeats over and over, which is pretty much true. But I mean, also at the same time, we are dealing with the age of the internet. Even though Russia somewhat cracks down on their internet, things definitely can still get out. And one day someone's going to post in Russian social media back-to-back videos of things just like these very ones I'm showing you now, just to give, I guess, the collective consciousness of the Russian citizenry all across the country there, the ability to more so think for themselves and realize that they really are all cannon fodder going to war. Really, really sad state of affairs there. But appeals like these, I really truly believe just end up sitting on the bottom of some Russian government official's email inbox along with all the rest. Then just a quick funny to round it off with today. So I quite enjoy this one. But this photo is making its rounds on the internet, asking people if this is a group of soldiers, Russian soldiers in 2022, a colorized, colorized photo, which I'll let you know in the end, but it didn't stop me from making one of my own filtered versions that looks quite old. But the truth is, you probably already guessed it, these are in fact Russian soldiers from Svartova in 2022. So I believe a couple of months ago this photo was taken. So it's just, yeah, I find that a little bit funny. They're just nowhere near as tactical looking as Russia advertises them to be. Oh, and that reminds me, Russia really does advertise them to be all tacticaled up with all their vests and equipment and everything there, body armor, because look at this photo here. So this is an advertisement, a poster right out the front of the building of the Russian Ministry of Defense in Moscow. So the difference between these two types of soldiers is just startling. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, subscribe. Appreciate all your time and all your watching, all your support, absolutely as well. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.